Thank you for joining us for this week's message at Crosswind Church. In this series, Dear Brothers, Sincerely Joseph, Jeremy will be guiding us through the book of Genesis, revealing a lesson on forgiveness. If you have any questions about this message or about Crosswind Church, please visit www.crosswindchurch.net or email us at info@crosswindchurch.net.
Good morning, Crosswind. It is so good to be here. And as Tommy mentioned earlier, my wife is one of those that has been gone all weekend, and I'm just thankful that like my kids can remember to brush their teeth and stuff like that on their own, because they've pretty much been on their own for the last couple of days. If you're a guest with us, we are so thankful that you're here with us, and I want to go ahead and give you a little bit of a disclaimer. If you haven't been here before now, what we do at Crosswind is we preach in series, which basically means we pick a topic and we talk about it until we're done, and we pick another topic and we move on. And this series is a little bit different. If it's your first time here with us, you're jumping in kind of in the middle of a story. We've been telling the story for a few weeks, and one of the things we would like for you to do, if you've missed the other parts of the story, that's okay. You'll be able to catch up today. But we also want you to go online. We want to encourage you to go online to crosswindchurch.net, click on the Resources tab, and under Resources, there you can see audio and video sermons. You can listen to me. I'm much better to listen to than I am watch. But you can listen and kind of get picked up with where we are kind of in the series. We're talking about a man in the Old Testament by the name of Joseph. And because his story takes up the better part of half of the book of Genesis, we've divided his story up into 4 weeks. And that's what we've been talking about. Now, a few weeks ago, I asked you all to give me a show of hands. How many of you all dream dreams? And a good number of you all raised your hands, and some of you did not raise your hands. And I want to go ahead and tell you what science tells us. Science tells us that we all dream. Whether we remember the dream or not, we all dream. So you have dreams. The question that science is not settled on is, do those dreams mean something? Right? I mean, you all know what it's like to wake up in the morning after having a dream. Maybe you remember it, and you wake up, or maybe even in the middle of the night, and you go, man, was that something that meant something, or did I just have no more Hot Pockets before bed or something like that, because that can cause some weird kind of things. And so science has kind of debated on whether or not it means something. A guy by the name of Sigmund Freud wrote a lot about your dreams. He argued that your dreams are actually thoughts that you've suppressed while you're awake. Like your mind has just kind of said, no, I'm not going to deal with that right now, and you kind of press it down. And so when you dream at night, your mind kind of moves into a different kind of cognitive state, and you bring these thoughts back up to mind. And as a result, scientists throughout history have kind of said different dreams mean certain things. So like if you're running from something in a dream, then people have said, well, what that means is you've got something that you're afraid is going to catch up with you. Some bad checks you wrote, or some lies you told, or something along those lines, right? If your money involves banks or purses or wallets, then that's some kind of symbolicness of the economy or of your financial well-being. If there's rivers in your dreams, that's a sign of emotions. Hotels are a sign of transitions. If you're in a dream and you're naked, it may be that you have something you're trying to hide, and you're afraid that it's going to be exposed. So we may or may not have meanings to our dreams, but to the people that were writing the Old Testament and the people that were alive in the time of Joseph, there was no question, there was no debate. For them, dreams meant something, especially when they were surrounded by certain sets of circumstances. People dreamed the same dream over and over again. When they had multiple dreams that seemed to have the same message, when different people had dreams that seemed to be related to one another, the ancients kind of perked up and went, ooh, we should pay attention to that. Ultimately, that's what Joseph's story is kind of about. At least that's the common thread we have running through it, is his dreams. See, Joseph had dreams. Dreams that his family would bow down to him. Dreams that he would be somebody that would lead his family. Dreams that he would be somebody that was great. Dreams that he would be somebody that would be used by God. But as we've learned so far, those dreams didn't exactly come true, at least in the way that Joseph thought that they would. Because he had zero relational intelligence early on, he told his brothers about these dreams. They didn't like that very much. So they faked his death and sold him into slavery. Now, you may have some sibling rivalry in your family, but your kids have never had a serious conversation, hopefully, about whether or not we should kill you or sell you. That's the conversation that his brothers had about him. And so he's loaded onto a caravan and he's carted off to Egypt, and there he finds his way into the home of a man named Potiphar. And while he's there in that home, he's falsely accused of trying to rape Potiphar's wife. As you can imagine, Potiphar wasn't very pleased with that and threw him into jail. And the thing that we read last week was all throughout Joseph's experience in Potiphar's house and in the pit and in the prison, throughout all of it, the Bible keeps telling us God was with Joseph, and God was with Joseph, and God was with Joseph. That doesn't make any sense to us, right? Because if God is with us, we're not in a jail. We think if God is with us, then we're not being sold as a slave. We think, listen, if we're honest with ourselves, we think that if God is with us, then nothing bad should be happening. Our circumstances should just be perfect. We talked about last week how flawed that thinking is. Just because things aren't the way that we think they ought to be, that has nothing to do with whether God is with us or God isn't with us. And the thing that we've been talking about is although Joseph's dreams have been dashed, he has this immense faith that God is with him through it all. And ultimately, the reason this story is so meaningful to you and to me is because Joseph's story is our story. It's my story, your story. We all know what it's like to have dreams. Maybe not ones that you dreamt while you were asleep and woke up and remember. We know what it is to have dreams, that God might use us in a way that would benefit His kingdom. That our bank account might reflect a certain number. That our house might look a certain way. That our children might act and behave and go and do. And that we might be successful and healthy and wealthy and wise and beautiful. Whatever it is, we know what it is to have dreams. And on some level, no matter what level of success you've had, on some level, we all know what it's like to have those dreams dashed. To have the marriage end. To have the kids go off the rails. To have the bank account read zero. Even worse, negative, right? To some degree, we all get what Joseph felt. What I asked you the very first week was this question. See, Joseph had his dreams dashed, and he had plenty of places he could have laid blame. He could have laid blame with his father, who made him his favorite. He could have laid blame with his brothers who sold him into slavery, or with God even for giving him the dream. He could have laid blame with the jailer or with Potiphar, with Potiphar's wife. He had plenty of places to lay blame, and you and I also have plenty of places to lay blame for our broken dreams. The question I asked you the first week was, where do you lay your blame? Where do you put it? Because we're all just kind of gut level honest with each other, we would all say that we want to point fingers and lay guilt and lay blame for our broken dreams. So some of us point inward to ourselves. It's my fault. I made these decisions. Some of us point to a family member. Some of us point to an ex-spouse or a child or a parent. Some of us point it to God Himself, but we all kind of lay that blame. And then last week I asked you this question. If you could say something to them, I want you to start thinking about it. If you could say something to that person that you lay blame with, yourself, God, what would you start to say? What are some things that you would say? Today, we're going to continue in the story of Joseph, and it's going to take a really, really unique and interesting turn. So as we read through Genesis chapter 41, I want to encourage you to turn in your Bibles there, or you can follow along on the screen with us. But this is a good one to kind of follow along in your Bible with, because we're going to kind of jump around a little bit because it's a really long chapter and I only have a few minutes to share with you. Okay? So we're going to read through this story together. Chapter 41, Joseph has been forgotten by the cupbearer to Pharaoh, who he had interpreted his dream. He had said, please remember when you leave. And the Bible says, oh, he forgot Joseph. And so we find ourselves in chapter 41, verse 1. And 2 full years have passed. Pause. Leave it on the screen because we're just going to talk about it. 2 years. Wrap your head around that. Joseph had been 17 when he was sold into slavery. At this point, he is somewhere around the age of 30. We find out later he is 30 years old when he comes into the service of Pharaoh. And he, for the last 2 years, the last, 730 days or so, like he has been laying in jail, running the jail for the jailer, going to the wall every day. I don't know that he did this, but going to the wall every day, like marking the wall, going, one more day, right? Take his little tin cup and wrapping it on the ball. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. 2 years. 2 years. Forgotten. Abandoned. Left alone. All right, we'll keep reading. Sorry. When 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream. What's with dreams? Pharaoh's had a dream. Joseph had dreams. The cupbearer and the baker, they had dreams. Everybody's having dreams. Pharaoh has a dream here. Verse 2, he was standing by the Nile. When he went out to the river, there came up 7 cows, sleek and fat, and they grazed among the reeds. And after them 7 other cows, ugly and gaunt, came up out of the Nile and stood beside the riverbank. And the cows that were ugly and gaunt ate up the 7 sleek, fat cows, and then Pharaoh woke up. Have you ever had one of those dreams where you wake up and go, man, why did my car have pizza tires? Why was there a zebra dealing blackjack talking to me, like in the dream? Like, what was going on? And I don't know what Pharaoh thought. I don't know if he was like, look, no more taquitos or something like that. I don't know what he was talking, but he goes back to sleep. Verse 5, he fell asleep again, and he had a second dream. 7 heads of grain, healthy and good, were growing on a single stalk. And after them 7 other heads of grain sprouted, thin and scorched by the east wind. And then thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 healthy, full heads. And then Pharaoh woke up. It had been a dream. And in the morning his mind was troubled. So he sent for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. And Pharaoh told them his dreams, but no one could interpret them for him. So wrap your head around this for just a minute. He has this dream. It's weird. He wakes up. He goes back to sleep. He has another dream. It's weird. And he wakes up and he's bothered by it. Now, let me just give you a little bit of free information. I think it's really, really cool. If you ever doubt the historicity of the Bible, especially the older books, Genesis and so on and so forth, let me tell you why Pharaoh dreaming about cows and then recording it in the book of Genesis is important to the historicity of the Bible. See, the people that lived in Palestine, to the Jews, the Hebrews, a sign of economic wealth and economic prosperity was the sheep. Jesus told lots of stories about sheep. You remember, right? But to the Egyptians, that wasn't their symbol for economic prosperity. It was a cow. So if this was only written by Jews later on, there's no way that they would have put cows in here. They would have talked about sheep, but now Pharaoh's dreaming about cows. You know what that tells me? Pharaoh really dreamed about cows, right? That's just free information, okay? But that's pretty cool, all right? So he has this dream. So here's what he does. He calls all of his wise men, all of his councils. He brings the cabinet together, the Department of Agriculture and the Secretary of the Interior and all that stuff. He brings them in, and Homeland Security and all that. He brings them in, and he goes like, guys, here's my dream. I need you to interpret it for me. And here's the thing. The smartest men in Egypt had no idea what was going on. Nothing. Meanwhile, over in the corner of the room, no doubt, was a man standing there holding Pharaoh's cup. And he went, aha, I remember something. Look what happens next. Look at verse 9. The chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, today I am reminded of my shortcomings. Pharaoh was once angry with his servants, and he imprisoned me and the chief baker in the house of the captain of the guard, and each of us had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. Now a young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us, giving each man an interpretation of his dreams, and things turned out exactly as he interpreted them to us. I was restored to my position, and the other man was impaled. Can you imagine? Think about that conversation just a minute. As Pharaoh is sitting there, troubled by his dreams, no one can interpret him. This cupbearer comes up, and I can only imagine the conversation went something like this. Hey, Pharaoh, like, listen, I don't really want to bring this up again because it didn't really go well the first time. You remember a couple years ago, you were mad at me. It was probably really justified, and you put me in jail, and the baker, you put us in jail, and we deserved it for what we've done. You know, I don't want to in any way say that we were unjustly imprisoned or anything, and I really even hate to bring it up, but I remember that while I was there, we had this dream, and this Hebrew, he probably didn't even speak very good Egyptian. Like, he probably had this weird accent because he wasn't from here, and he was able to interpret our dreams, and what he said was what happened. Now, for just a minute, like, you start seeing the momentum build, don't you? And as a reader who's reading this for the first time, you go, oh man, this may be the moment. This may be what Joseph's been looking for. This may be his opportunity. This may be a shot. Look at verse 14. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. And when he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. So you can't just bring anybody in front of Pharaoh, right? Like, you've got to prepare. You would shave not just your beard, your entire body would be shaved. They would put on fresh clothes. I don't know if they were trying to make the prisons look better so for Pharaoh. So, like, when he saw the guys, like, man, it's not that bad in prison. Like, I don't know all of the reasons that kind of went into it. But here's what I pictured. This is just like my worldly mind. Stick with me. Like, I picture Joseph being prepped to go see Pharaoh with like some Beats headphones on, right? And it's that moment where it's like he's listening to Lose Yourself by Eminem or something like that, like you only get one shot, do not miss your chance. Like you lose yourself in the music, the moment. Okay, anyway, it was funnier when I was thinking about it. Anyway, like picture this like a guy preparing for a prize fight, someone preparing for a board meeting, someone preparing for that opportunity where he had to go in front of somebody, his boss's boss's boss, or the shareholders or the stakeholders, whoever it is. Here is his one moment that Joseph has. I can imagine what it was like when the jailer goes to the prison cell and opens the door and goes, Joe, you got to come with me. Grab your razor. We're going to see Pharaoh. 13 years. Joseph's been a slave and in jail. 13 years previously, his brothers had thrown him in a pit and discussed whether to sell him or kill him. And now he's being prepped to go see the most powerful man in the world. To get one shot. Here's where I think we can all kind of empathize with Joseph. See, there's been that time when you've been up for that promotion. You had to go in and talk to your boss. There's that time when you went in to the job interview. There was times when you bid that big job. There was times when you had to go to the doctor and listen to what he had to say. There were those moments in your life of tension. You know what it's like when you go and you have your interview to get into graduate school. When you walk up to ask the girl out on a date. When you go to pick her up for the date. When you go to drop her off for the date. Come on, we all know that moment, that tension that you feel when you think, this is my shot, this is the one opportunity that I have. And that's what Joseph was preparing for when he went to go meet Pharaoh. Just think about it. 13 years ago, he was in a pit. He was sold to Potiphar. He was in prison. And now he's standing before Pharaoh. Look at verse 16. Oh, look at verse 15. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and no one can interpret it, but I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Now come on, you've been in those interviews. You've been in those moments. What is it you say when your boss's boss's boss says, I hear you can do something? What do? You lie, don't you? You tell them whatever it is they want to hear. Yeah, you bet I can. Yeah, I can do it. Whatever it takes, no matter how big the to-do list is, whatever it is, I'll do it. I will lie and cheat and steal and do whatever I have to do to make this work because you want that opportunity to come through. Isn't that true? Isn't that what you do? So what would you expect Joseph to say here when Pharaoh says, I need a dream interpreted, and I hear you can do it? Let me just tell you what I'd say. If I was Joseph, I'd go, well, Pharaoh, you heard correctly. And in the back of my brain, I would go, and even if I don't know what in the world I'm talking about, you better believe I'm going to tell him some kind of interpretation of this dream. But look what Joseph says. It's amazing. Verse 16. I cannot do it. I wonder if there was an audible gasp from the people in the room. Why would you say that? I cannot do it. Joseph replied to Pharaoh, this is great, but God will give Pharaoh the answer that he desires. Let me tell you why this is such a big deal. Pharaoh thought he wasn't. Pharaoh knew of other gods, but here Joseph is saying something different. In fact, if we were to whittle down what Joseph was saying and kind of put it into the JIV, the Jeremy International Version, here's what he was saying. Pharaoh, I have a God that knows something that you don't know anything about. Pharaoh, I have a God that is more powerful, more knowledgeable, and much more God than you are. Pharaoh, I have a God that is going to challenge your very idea of deity. This is a big statement from Joseph. This is not just some kind of passing statement like, yeah, my God can do it. He is literally calling Pharaoh out by saying, I can't do it, but my God, who is the God, the most powerful God, he can do it. And I'm amazed at the faith of Joseph. And I wonder if there hasn't been just a little bit of shift in his personality in the last 13 years. You remember when he was living with his daddy, and he was daddy's favorite, and he was having dreams and telling his brothers about him. He had zero relational intelligence, right? He was all about me. In fact, I want you to know, my brothers, that this is what is going to happen to me. I'm going to be elevated. You're going to bow down to me. I'm going to make it about what I'm going to become and what you're not going to become. In fact, there was this sense of pride almost in the dreams and the coat and the favoritism that Joseph had been shown. Now, all of a sudden, when he stands before Pharaoh and has every opportunity to go, I am big, bad man in Egypt, what does he say? Not me. It's God in me. I'm blown away at his faith in God, having been sold, falsely accused, imprisoned, and forgotten. He has this overwhelming knowledge that God is, in fact, for him. So Pharaoh could have called him out and had him killed, but instead Pharaoh goes, okay, I got nothing to lose. Here's my dream. There's these cows and they're fat, and there's cows and they're skinny. The skinny ones eat the fat ones, and there's this grain, and it's real healthy grain, and then there's grain that's been scorched by the wind, and they engulf one another, and I have no idea what it means. Joseph doesn't hesitate. Verse 25, then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he's about to do. 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. The 7 lean, ugly cows that come up afterward are 7 years, and so are the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine. Verse 28. It is just as I said to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. Then all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. The abundance in the land will not be remembered, because the famine that follows it will be so severe. The reason the dream was given to Pharaoh in 2 forms is that the matter has been firmly decided by God, and God will do it soon. Now this again is Joseph pointing out that Pharaoh, who thinks he's a god, has no power over his God. Let me tell you what he's saying. There's going to be great years of plenty. There's going to be 7 years of famine. And God, my God, Pharaoh, he's the one that decides it. It's certain it's going to happen quickly. Pharaoh, you think you're a god, but there is nothing you can do about it. Again, to be one of the wise men in the room, one of the magicians in the room, one of the sorcerers in the room, can only imagine. They thought, what boldness is this Hebrew who still smells of the dungeon? What's he been out of prison? 30 minutes? And all of a sudden he's calling Pharaoh out as somebody that has no control or power over his God. Now Joseph just can't stop talking at this point in time. Standing before the most powerful man in the world. Look what he says next, verse 33. And now let Pharaoh find a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. It isn't enough that Joseph has just told him what this dream means and all the good and all the bad. Now he's giving advice. But let me tell you what this means. Not only is my God more powerful than your God or you, Pharaoh, but you aren't even equipped to handle this. You need to find somebody else. You need to find a manager. Incredibly insulting. He goes on, verse 34. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land, take 1/5 of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming up and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh to be kept in the cities for food. This food shall be held in reserve for the country to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. Verse 37. The plan seemed good to Pharaoh and to all of his officials. So Pharaoh asked them, can we find anyone like this man, one in whom the Spirit is the Spirit of God? Now, Pharaoh hasn't been converted here. He's not now a believer in God. None of that. I do think it's kind of funny that surrounding Joseph right now are all of these men that have been trying to work their way up through the system and trying to become a friend of Pharaoh so that maybe one day they might get elevated or get that promotion. And Joseph, who's a slave that just came out of the dungeon, is getting to be elevated to the second in command over all of Egypt. I can only imagine how they feel about Joseph now. Okay? The plan sounds good to Pharaoh. Verse 39. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has made all this known to you, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all the people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, I here put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger, and he dressed him in robes of fine linen, put a gold chain around his neck, and he made him ride in the chariot as his second in command. And the people shouted before him, "Make way," and thus he put him in charge of the whole land of Egypt. That little phrase, "make way," maybe you've got a different translation. You want to know another way you can translate it? Ready? Watch this. Bow down. Stick with me for this minute. Verse 44. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without your word no one will lift a hand or foot in all of Egypt." Pharaoh gave Joseph the name Zephaneah Paneah, which is the last time we'll read that. And he gave his daughter Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, to be his wife. And Joseph went throughout the land of Egypt. Stick with me here. This is so neat. The story is just taking this really interesting turn. He's been abused and abandoned by his brothers, sold into slavery by his family. He's been carted off into a land that is a foreign land with foreign gods and foreign rulers. He's been put in the home of Potiphar, where he's been falsely accused of rape. He's been thrown in jail, where he has been put in charge of running the dungeon by the jail master, only to be forgotten by people that he's helped out while he's there. All along the way, he's wondering, what is it that's happened with my dreams? What's happening with what God has told me when I was 17 years old and younger? What does God do? Then, a turn of fate, he's brought out of the dungeon. And within a few hours to a few days, he now is second in command over all of Egypt, riding in Pharaoh's Bentley, dressed in some of the best robes, the best clothes, gold chains around his neck. He gets a new name. He gets a new wife, a new life, a fresh beginning. And as he walks down the road, watch what they say to him. Here comes Joseph. Make way. Bow. Here's where we as Christians misinterpret this text. We see Joseph walking down the street and people bowing down to him, and we go, well, Joseph has finally made it. Don't we? God has finally brought true Joseph's dream. He's now a man of great authority and great leadership. He now has people bowing down to him. This is what Joseph dreamt about. No. Think with me, if you will. Those of you that have been around church for a little while, you may remember another story about another group of individuals who find themselves in service to a king, a man by the name of Daniel and his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they find themselves in the service to the king Nebuchadnezzar in a foreign land with foreign gods. And when we see them get new names, when they see them elevated to positions of authority, we don't applaud and go, yeah, God finally come through for them. What do? We cry for them and go, man, that's not what God has in store for them. Can I tell you, this is not what God has in store for Joseph. He is a child of the covenant. He's the great-grandson of Abraham. He doesn't belong in a foreign land, subservient to a foreign king who worships pagan gods. That's not a fulfillment of God's promise to Joseph. His circumstances have changed. Make no mistake about it. It's better to be in Pharaoh's court than in prison. Circumstances have changed. But his dreams are still unfulfilled. I don't even know that Joseph understood it all. I don't even know that he kind of got it all. Look at verse 50. Verse 50, it says, before the years of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph by Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera. Can you pronounce that? The priest of On. And Joseph named his firstborn Manasseh and said, it is because God has made me forget all my trouble and all of my father's household. And the second son he named Ephraim and said, it is because God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering. You see, I think there's a part of Joseph that thinks that this is the fulfillment of God's promise. I think there's a part of Joseph that goes, you know what? Forget my family. You know what? Forget my brothers. forget my past. I'm going to name my first child Manasseh because God has made me forget. I still have faith in God, but I'm done with those people. And I'm going to name my second son Ephraim. Why? Because God has made me prosperous, not in the land of promise. God has made me prosperous, not in my family. God has made me prosperous in a foreign land. So be it. God has done that. I'm done with them. And I think there's a part of Joseph that thinks, I'll just move on. I'll just start over. That's not God's promise. That's not Joseph's dream that God has given. Let me tell you why that's so important. It's because some of you all have found yourself where your circumstances have changed, but your past hasn't been dealt with. You've moved out of the prison, and now your bank account is fine. You're maybe in a new marriage. You've been able to grow a family. You've got a nice house, and you've seen some prosperity of some kind, and you go, yeah, you know what? God has made me prosperous, and I'm just able to move past all of that in my past. It's not that simple. I didn't even realize it. I've lived a good life, great life. I've been incredibly blessed. I think about all of the things that I've been given and the opportunities I've been given and the experiences that I've had, and really there's no reason at all for me to complain. But I've experienced hurt, just like you. No matter how prosperous you may seem now, we've all experienced heartache. We've all walked in the shrapnel of our shattered dreams. I was born with a medical condition that allows me to, or doesn't allow me to fight off bacteria well. I get sick a lot faster than anybody else. I don't know my biological father. My parents have experienced divorce. A career path that I wanted to go down ended up being not where God was calling me. I could continue to go on and on and on. I've had friends that have abandoned me and used me and abused me. I've had girls that I've dated that have cheated on me and done horrible things to me. I could go through the list of all of the things that I've been wrong. And here's what I do, and here's what you do. It's so easy when you're living in prosperity to take all of that hurt and all of that pain and stick it on the back burner of your life and go, I ain't even dealing with it anymore. I'm past it. You might even use a church word. You might even go, I've forgiven them. But I ain't want anything to do with them. You know what? I don't hold a grudge against them, but they're a non-person to me. You know what? I may have to go and eat Thanksgiving over there, but I am not going to spend time talking to them. I ain't doing that. Right? Let me ask you this real quick. Have any of you gone on Facebook? Don't raise your hand. To look up people that you knew in high school or college, or that you dated in high school or college, or look up an ex-husband or ex-wife, only because you wanted to see if they were ugly and fat. Come on. Don't raise your hand. Right? See, there's something inside of us that although we say we've moved past it, we don't want good things for them. We don't want to do for them. Right? Come on. Joseph's circumstances have changed. He's on top of the world, second in command, only the most powerful person in the world. But yet there still remains this unresolved tension and conflict on the back burner of his life. Let me see if I can explain it. When someone wrongs you, they enter into a debt-debtor relationship with you. Okay? When someone wrongs you, they abuse you, they cheat on you, they hurt you, they lie to you, they steal from you, fill in the blank. When someone does that, they enter into a debt-debtor relationship with you. You know how I know this? Because that's the language we use when we talk about it, don't we? Someone hurts us, what do we say? They owe me. They owe me an apology. They owe me restitution. They owe me something. And when you enter into a debt-debtor relationship, you open up a little Quicken file, you open up a ledger book, you open up some kind of debt book, and you record down, here is the person that's wronged me, and they owe me something. Don't. And here's the thing. Until that debt has been resolved, you carry it with until that debt has been resolved, you carry it with you. Joseph had been wronged by his brothers, his father. Joseph had been wronged by Potiphar's wife and Potiphar. Joseph had been wronged by the cupbearer to the king. He had 5 ledger books open up in his life of debt that people owed him. He was carrying it with him, no matter what his circumstances. No matter what his circumstances. He carried that debt on him. And it's going to have to be so. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do today. This series has been challenging to me. I know it's been challenging to you. It's a series that asks us to kind of pause and look deep down into our hearts and ask ourselves really hard questions like, who do I blame for my broken dreams? What would I say to them if I could say to them? And today, here's what I want you to do. You may feel like you've moved past every wrong that's been done to you. You may feel like you have started to see prosperity, but all that's changed in your circumstances. The debt is still on the books. Here's what I want you to do. Matt is going to come and he's going to sing. And for once in our response, I don't want you to sing with us. I don't want you to stand. I want you to sit. You pray. You need to come up here and pray. You can do that. Here's what I want you to ask yourself. What debts am I carrying around still? What do I think that I've let go of that I haven't? What books do I have open in my life? Here's the thing. If we are ever going to move past our past, we're going to have to identify those debts that we're carrying with us. We're going to have to do it. Joseph doesn't know it yet. Although he thinks he's forgotten, he's going to have to deal with his past. Joseph is going to have to deal with those things that have been carried around in his heart for 13 years. And he's going to have to do it sooner rather than later. Next week, we're going to see how Joseph deals with these burdens. We're going to learn how we can deal with them as well. But before we get to that next week, we have to do some soul searching today. We have to dig down deep and ask, where am I harboring resentment? Where am I holding a grudge? Where are the people that I don't want to deal with, that I don't want to talk to, that I don't want to restore a relationship with? Who are the people that have hurt me so bad I don't know that I could ever move past it? Who is that in your life? I want you to bring that up, and I want you to deal with that. Deal with the reality that you have an open debtor-debt relationship. As you identify those people, I invite you to come back next week. We'll learn how Joseph dealt with it, how we can do it.